Charles. Welcome to the first ever episode, season 1, episode 1 of LFGM, a Mets podcast. Let's fucking go Mets. A phrase coined by our first baseman, our guy, the home run champ, Pete Alonso. And we turned it into a little podcast. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I actually really like the name of this podcast. I know it might seem almost a little bit basic, but I wanted something that was straight to the point, and we struggle with names for quite a bit.
You know, there are a lot of Mets podcasts out there now. I think Raise the Apple is a good one. There's one with Barstool too. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. But LFGM is just it's simple. It's short. We all know what it means. If you're a Mets fan, you know what it means. And it's a little vulgar too. That's why I like it.
And it's recent. And it's, you know what I mean? Like, I think and it's cool, like a lot of Mets podcasts, they have these names that kind of like, date the franchise back, 20, 30 years, whatever it is.
Shea Stadium. We love Shea Stadium, but like it has nothing to do with this team right now.
But exactly, yeah. Like, we are turning over a new leaf, and I think it's a perfect time to do it. We've been diehard Mets fans forever, and so we have struggled pretty much just right along with everyone else in this. And I feel different now.
Wilpon years.
What's up?
We struggled through the Wilpon years. We made
it
out alive.
We did. I mean, and we don't have, going into 2021, I thought it was like a perfect way to start. Like, we don't have Wilpons in our lives for 2021.
No.
We've never experienced that.
How crazy is that? We're both Mets and Jets fans, and it's like watching the Jets debacle and how inept they are and how they just can't, like, they continue to trip over their own feet. And now watching this franchise actually be somewhat sustainable. And like, I know not much has happened in free agency yet, but they have made the right moves, bringing in Sandy, bringing in Jared Porter as the GM, and Jared Porter actually was able to get one of his friends from Boston to come down too as assistant GM too. So they're doing things the right way. And will it all happen at once in free agency? I don't know. I can't answer that question. But they're putting, the right foundation in place for this franchise.
Yeah. So Jared Porter, he's Theo's guy, I believe, who also, I think he worked alongside Sherrington from the Sox. So that whole that coaching tree right there is pretty legit. So I feel so good about that, just because of who he's been around, who this guy has learned from, who he's scouted players with and been in meetings with. I feel really good about that going into.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up Theo too, right? Because like the rumor is like he's obviously he's taking the year off, but we have that president of baseball operations void, I guess you'll say, that Sandy Alderson's going to use in the meantime. And it sounds like that job is like Theo's if he wants it next year, like take a year off, enjoy some time with the family, and then come to Citi Field. So Theo could be reunited with Jared Porter in the orange and blue. We'll see.
We can hope. I thought that was happening right away when we first.
Yeah, you were really excited about that.
Yeah, and then I got shot down like probably 10 minutes later with a tweet, and just it was it pretty much said like, no, it's not happening. So I don't want to get my hopes up again for next year, but we'll see.
I'm excited to see where this front office goes, because it seems like the Brody experiment, like I don't even want to go there anymore. We made some really weird trades. He did some really interesting things in the draft. Interesting signings. Some good moves, some not some good moves. He made big splashes, and it is what it is. But we're finally, it seems like, a franchise that's trending more analytically, which people really like. You're either on one side of the fence or the other with analytics. But if you look at the last, 4 or 5 World Series champs, what do they all have in common? The best teams in baseballs are analytically driven. They don't let it make all of their decisions for them, but it helps them in the decision-making process. So it sounds like we're a franchise trending in that direction.
So, and for Porter too, a lot of it is like analytics based and whatever, but it also seems like he does have a feel for players and what can help a team, and not just like he doesn't necessarily make deals that like include studs, all stars, whatever. But I believe he was the one that he got Eduardo Rodriguez to the Red Sox from the Orioles for pretty much nothing, and Rodriguez was like, I think that next year was like top 10.
That was the best year of his career.
Yeah. And it's little things like that. Like, obviously, he struggled with injuries since then, but it's little things like that that's, helped the Red Sox
out for them
another title. Yeah. He also, I think, with the Cubs that year, the year that they won it, 2016, they were shoring up the bullpen, and I believe they got Aroldis Chapman from the Yankees.
They traded for Chapman. You know who they traded?
The Yankees, they got a nice haul, but they also got another lefty in Mike Montgomery, who was really good for them.
Mike Montgomery was very good for them down the stretch.
Right.
The Yankees got Gleyber Torres was who they got for Aroldis Chapman for a rental, and then they signed him back. So
that was a amazing trade for the Yankees because then they got Aroldis Chapman back.
So. Yep. All right, you want to do a little free agency talk?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's see. Obviously not much has happened in free agency unless you're a San Diego Padres fan. I would even argue not much has happened in their free agency. They just made 2 trades, and there haven't really been any big signings. We signed Trevor May, which I think was a really good move, trying to shore up the back end of the bullpen. But there's a lot of rumors going on, a lot of speculation with some starting pitchers who the Mets might be in on, who I think Jared Porter and Sandy Alderson are going to be looking at to shore up our starting rotation. So the first name I'm going to bring up, Trevor Bauer. Obviously, he is the biggest pitching name on the market, right? Cy Young winner, coming off the best year of his career. He really bet on himself, and I love when players do that because you put your money where your mouth is, and he, for him, it's a good thing because he had the best year of his career. A lot of rumors around him. He's got a lot of, I will say, baggage in like positive and negative ways, I guess you can say, depending on how you look at it. But what are your thoughts on Trevor Bauer with the New York Metropolitans?
I was fixated on getting him since the very start of the offseason, probably before that, honestly. Since the start of this season, I was like, Trevor Bauer's got to be a Met. I've softened on that a little bit, and it's not because I love what he does with YouTube, with his channels, with his vlogs, whatever it is. I love what he does on Twitter. I like that. To me is exciting and interesting, and people like go up in arms with that. That's not really why I softened on him a little bit. I guess I softened on him a little bit just because knowing realistically, if we sign him, are we really getting someone else? And this team does probably need a few more holes to fill than just one starting pitcher. So, I still really want him, and I still don't think he's going to get the 34 to 36 that people are saying he wants. He even said that that's not true. So I don't know, for 28 to 30 million a year, would you do it?
I guess
5 to 6 years.
It does depend on the longevity of the deal, right? Like if it's a 5 or a 6 year deal, I'd probably say no. If it's a 3 or a 4 year deal, I'd probably be all in on it because I do think 6 years down the road, that could be an ugly looking contract for any team that signs him. I also think like it kind of goes back to like the James McCann, JT Realmuto argument. Like, yes, you signed James McCann and it was a little bit cheaper, but you're also now you have some flexibility to spend money elsewhere, which I think is really smart on the Mets' part. Let's not get into this bidding battle here when we can get into bidding battles elsewhere. I don't know. I if it was like 3 or 4 years and 28 was the average to 30, I would probably be in on that. That's like 4 and 120 max. Um, Anything more than that, I think he'll probably be able to get a better contract from the Angels. And it sounds like that's from everything that I've been reading, it sounds like the Angels are probably number one in the Trevor Bauer sweepstakes right now. Um, I don't know where the Angels have all this money. They're still in on the Pujols contract. They've signed Trout to an extension. They just signed Rendon last offseason, and now they're going to go spend a ton of money on Trevor Bauer. Um, but hey, if I guess if you've got it, go spend it. I do think, like you said, this team has more holes to fill than just one starting pitcher, which is why we're going to talk about a few more names coming down the road here. But any more thoughts on Trevor Bauer?
I would do 5 to 6 years on him in a heartbeat.
Really?
In a heartbeat.
Wow.
I think he might get 7 to 8 years.
That's crazy. He's 31, right?
31. I don't know. It's a weird situation because who else could you really compare him to that hit free agency at 31 and has had his best year recently, right? Mm-hmm. Kershaw? Did Kershaw have that last contract, whatever it was?
I don't think Kershaw. Nah, I'm not going to say that. I don't know. Clayton's a weird one because he's never left LA. I feel like never wanted to leave LA.
It was just always like no one even went after him. So
right. There's baseball's always had these free agents where it's like, yes, they're free agents, but we know we're going to re-sign you. It's almost like the DJ LeMahieu thing with the Yankees, where all the Yankee fans are like, oh, we're going to re-sign DJ LeMahieu. He's a free agent. He's talking to other teams, but the Yankees are all in on DJ LeMahieu. I feel like that was the Dodgers with Kershaw. It's definitely not the Reds with Bauer. And it wasn't the Indians with Bauer because they almost couldn't wait to get rid of him. Remember when he threw that ball from the pitcher's mound all the way into center field? That was crazy. And then he comes back the next year and he wins the Cy Young. So, all right.
But he's been good for legitimately a few years now. Like, very, very good. Like, you're talking top of the rotation.
When the Indians went to the World Series against the Cubs.
He was their 2 guy, right?
Yep. He was behind Kluber.
Yeah, and I will say this. I'll end on this. Like, Blue Jays maybe might be interested in him. Angels are somehow interested in him, right? If the Angels have the money to offer him something, then we definitely have the money now to offer him something.
No, you're right. Well, this is going to transition real nicely into the next free agent that I would like to talk about, Tomoyuki Sugano. We're going to stay on starting pitchers for here. Sugano apparently has flown in from Asia, from Japan, wherever he was living. I think he was in Japan, right? He was with the what's the name of the team he was with?
Is it the Giants?
I think it's the Yomiuri Giants, right? That's what I thought. So he's flown in, and he is apparently he's going over his best offers, and he's going to hopefully have a decision sometime. I would imagine in the next 4 or 5 days, the latest. He's younger than Bauer. He's going to be a little bit cheaper than Bauer. But you're taking a risk on a guy who's never pitched in Major League Baseball before. We've seen it work out really nicely with pitchers like Tanaka with the Yankees, and we've seen it really kind of fall flat on its face where, I mean, if you think about someone long-term like Daisuke Matsuzaka looked great when he first came over, and then towards the end of his career, he couldn't even pitch in AAA for us with the Mets. So what are your thoughts on how do you feel about Sugano compared to Bauer? Do you want both of them? Would you be more interested in one or the other? I would say this is definitely a little bit more risky.
Okay, so we did mess up a little bit. Bauer is younger than Sugano, and Bauer is only 29.
No way.
Bauer's 29, Sugano's 31. So we got that mixed up.
Then the infielder is 25.
Yeah, no, I knew Sugano he's a veteran, and like looking at his stats, I wasn't really like it's so tough to just like look at Japanese baseball stats and see how that's going to translate to MLB, right?
Yeah.
But I was like looking more so at the innings pitch because that's what we need really is a guy that's going to be there. And he threw 137 innings last year. I don't think they took too much of a break with the pandemic. They might have taken a little, but remember in March and April, we were watching
KBL on ESPN.
Yeah. So I don't think they took too much of a break. The year before, he threw the same amount of innings. He's thrown 200 innings in a season before, but I wonder, did he have injuries then if he's only thrown 130 innings in a few years? He is a command guy, which I do like, especially as you get older, that usually translates a little bit better than someone that's, just throwing hard. But I don't look at Bauer as a guy that's just throwing hard either. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I think like Bauer we'll give him 6 to 7 years. We'll do 7. Bauer at 7 years for $30 million. Is that much more of a crazier contract than Sugano for 4 years and 12 to 14 million, which they were saying?
No, they both. I don't know. I think I'm like one of the weird Met fans here, where I'd rather sign someone like Jake Odorizzi than go for either of those guys. You sit there and you shake your head, but like I don't know. Odorizzi was with the Rays. He was so good down there. No one talked about him. He's been really good with the Twins the last few years. He's a free agent again.
Was hurt last year.
He was hurt last year. There are some pitchers that like recently hurt and they're in free agency, and it's just like I don't even know what the value, like what they're going to get. I don't know. I think Bauer's a lot, and it's such a big commitment, and I think there are other holes on this team that could be filled. And we'll talk about a few of the other guys that I think I would put if I had like a priority, like a list. I would put a starting pitcher would probably be behind a center fielder and behind a shortstop at this point.
Sugano, he is a little scary if you're talking 5 years, 14 million a year, right?
That's 5 years. That's a long commitment there too.
5 years is a lot, man. I don't know if he's getting this. Again, I could see maybe 3 or 4 years, but I don't know I have no idea
why wouldn't we just go out and sign someone like Jake Odorizzi as like a stopgap for a year or two, or Masahiro Tanaka for a stopgap for a year or two, and then you can see what you have from Peterson still, and listen, like the thing that I think Met fans are forgetting is like free agency doesn't come like once every 4 years. It's not the Olympics, okay? Free agency happens every single year, and if you want to be able to spend Stephen Cohen's money in free agency every single year, you can't sign everybody this off season. You just can't do it. You have to be smart about the way you're spending money. You have to be able to look at like who's going to be a free agent down the road. Not that I have those free agents like listed in the back of my mind, but I do think like there has to come a point where it's like, obviously I know money will come off and money's going to come back on, and we don't know what the Cano situation is, and Cespedes is gone, and the right money is covered in insurance and all that good stuff, and Michael Kadire and like things like that in the past. But it's like he's not going to want to spend $300 million a year. It's just not happening. That's not possible. So we have to be a little bit smarter about like who we want versus who we need. I think Bauer would be like unreal for a few years, and I think by the end of that contract we would hate him. I think taking a risk on Sugano it's a big risk to sign somebody who's never pitched in the majors before.
I mean, that's an underrated point you made though with we don't need to sign everyone, because you go on like Mets Twitter and everyone's bugging out. It's like, bro, we've been the most active team in free agency probably, other than like, I don't know,
McCann and May.
We got the second catcher in the market, and we got a promising reliever who throws hard with good stuff.
So speaking of Mets Twitter, they're going to love this one. Frankie Lindor, who, I would love to have as a Met. I think shortstop is a big hole that this team needs to fill. I think our up-the-middle defense in the past probably 3 or 4 seasons just has been so undervalued by the front office. And and I think it's a huge hole, especially if you're a team that relies on good starting pitching. You got to have good up the middle defense. That's second base, that's shortstop, and it's center field. So we'll start at shortstop. We'll make our way up to center field, and then we'll talk a little bit about second base and a few other things moving forward. So Lindor, obviously the rumors have been going around. He's going to be a free agent next offseason. Would you trade for him now, or would you sit tight and would you wait for 2022, like I was saying before?
I go back and forth with this all the time, and with the Lindor, it's the same thing as with the Arenado rumors.
Mm-hmm.
I go back and forth with it just because, like, for me, I am content with the defense at short if it's
Jimenez.
Yeah. And I'm content with the bats of both Rosario and Jimenez together. I'm content with that. I still think Ahmed Rosario will probably move on, and I think he'll be fine somewhere wherever he goes. I don't know if that's at shortstop. I don't know if that's at center field, third base, wherever. But I think he's going to be a legitimate major league player who, hits above his weight and, is exciting. I don't know if his defense is probably ever going to get much better than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, this all plays on like our second base situation too with Cano.
Absolutely.
And, losing him, now you got a little bit more leeway. Like, hey, we should probably sign someone, just because if Cano was there, then and there's no DH, then you got Gimme splitting time with Rosario, and then you could kind of make it work. Now it's like you got to decide: is Gimme the shortstop? Is Gimme the second baseman?
The problem is you don't know what's going to happen with Cano. You know what's going to happen this year. You don't know what's going to happen next year. And that's a huge – and he's still got, 3 years left on that contract? Like,
he's got a lot of time.
One of the worst trades of all time.
Yeah.
But you just – second base, I think, gets filled by McNeil this year. Shortstop, I think, will get split between Rosario and Jimenez. I think Jimenez can play third base. He showed you he's capable there too. Right now,
you don't think that's an issue though?
What?
It's just all right. Gimmy's good at short. Let's put him at third sometimes too, and then maybe he'll spell McNeil when McNeil's has been run through a wall and is tired, and he'll go there and play second base. I think I like a guy that can play all over the place. I think that was a little bit of our issue the last couple of years where we had guys playing everywhere. Yeah. We had McNeil in left and second, and you can't do that with your best player.
3 outfield spots in one game. Like there are some guys on this team that can move around, and then there's some guys that can't move around that we do move around. Tom Smith was one of those people that he played a decent outfield last year. I will give him that. But I think McNeil needs a position. J.D. Davis needs a position. You can't just continue to move these guys around. Remember at the beginning of last year, too, when they were like McNeil's playing third and J.D. Davis is playing left field. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And then J.D. Davis, he's got a cannon at third base. Like, let the man play third base. I think he can actually be pretty good there. It's also like a reassurance thing. Like, I know I'm starting at third base. I know what I'm doing there. Like, leave him alone. I think J.D. Davis you leave alone. I think this year you're going to see McNeil play second base because Cano's gone. I think you're going to get Dom Smith a lot in the outfield and sometimes at first base. And we'll see what happens with the DH and shortstop. You're going to get split between Jimenez and Rosario.
And I'm fine with that because Lindor also, we got to wait on him. We have to because
I wouldn't trade for him either. I think you sit tight. Even with Arenado too, I would sit tight.
Who else is in the running for these guys?
I know.
You only hear the Mets.
Like that back, you have the chip. Like Arenado will opt out. He's going to be a free agent. Lindor will be a free agent unless they trade for him. And guess what? He'll be a free agent after that. I really think this is not the year of like the Mets off season. It's going to be next year, and you're going to see some crazy things happen next year. I think Steve Cohen needs to settle in. I think Sandy needs to settle back in. Jared Porter is a first-time GM. He's going to settle in, and I think you're going to see these guys go absolutely fucking nuts next off season. But with that being
said, not a good market this year.
Right, and so who else is in the market would be? We're going to go up to center field right now, and that's my man. this was my biggest, I'll say, priority for the Mets this offseason was getting a center fielder for me. And the best center fielder on the market is George Springer. That's not arguable. He is, that's a fact. George Springer from the Houston Astros. He's a free agent. He's been talking. It sounds like it's down to two teams. It's going to come down to the Mets and the Blue Jays. I love Springer. I love that he can bat leadoff because I don't think this team actually has a real true leadoff hitter. You plug him in center field and he can play 160 games out there. He's got a cannon. He hits for power. I don't see any true downside to this besides like the Met fan who goes, well, we have Brandon Nimmo. Brandon Nimmo is a corner outfielder. He is not a center fielder. He showed us that. I love Nimmo. I know you love Nimmo. I love when Nimmo runs down to first base when he gets a walk and he's kissing everything and he's got this big freaking smile on his face, but he's not a center fielder. I'm all in on George Springer. He's my number one priority. He has been from the beginning of the offseason. He is still right now. What do you think?
That would be the one where if he goes somewhere else, that would hurt the most because I feel like he's ours to lose. So if the Jays swoop in or whatever, any other team, if they swoop in and get him, that would hurt the most because that is the biggest hole. Like you said, I like Nimmo, but you can't have him out there for 150 plus games. I don't mind him spelling Springer every once in a while or another center fielder every once in a while, but also there's not many center field options. So if you don't get Springer, what are you going to do? Maybe trade for Kevin Kiermaier because the Rays are probably like trying to dump guys again.
Shipping everybody out of there.
So maybe I think Pilar might be a free agent. So you're talking about a Springer up here and then a way lesser tier guy. So and I like all those guys, especially defensively. Those guys are incredible. But, I mean, like you said, Springer, leadoff hitter, he checks a lot of boxes for us. And even, like, when he came up with Houston and they put him in the leadoff spot, he was never seen as a true leadoff anyway. He's just a good hitter is what he is. And so he knows what to do as a leadoff hitter.
There are people who are not comfortable doing that, and he's never shown that. And I think that's value. Like almost like when we had Granderson in the first year, we had him in like the 3 and the 4 and the 5 hole, and then out of nowhere, Terry Collins started batting him leadoff, and you take a look back at it and you go, oh wow, this actually makes sense. It's like Nimmo bats leadoff. His on base percentage is through the roof. I love it, but when there's two guys, when there's second and third and 2 outs, like you need a clutch hit sometimes too. I love Brandon Nimmo. I don't want people to take this the wrong way. I just value George Springer a lot more than I do Brandon Nimmo. And I think anybody who wants to argue that with me, I welcome that conversation.
Yeah, but I do think Nimmo is going to have a career year this year. I think he's grown into his own a little bit. I thought what you saw last year was just a brief glimpse because of the 60-game season. You didn't get to see too much from him. I do think he is a legitimate leadoff hitter. But I also don't think that you can have 2 leadoffs. That's fine. You can hit him 8th, you could hit him 9th, you could hit him 2nd if he's good enough. That's just it's just another option.
The problem is you have 4 outfielders because Dom Smith.
That's the bigger issue. Yeah. So what do you do? Because I'm assuming George Springer is going to get signed. I actually think it's going to be announced sometime this week. It's going to hurt if we don't get him, right? But assuming that we do get him, what do you do with these other guys? Because you have Conforto as right field. That's locked up. And then left field, you have an array of guys that are all good, but maybe one of them needs to go.
I think then you have to circle back to some sort of trade, right? It doesn't have to be – I think we're so set on Arenado or Lindor, and it doesn't have to be one of those 2 guys. I think if you sign Springer, I wouldn't trade Dom Smith. I wouldn't trade Michael Conforto. I'd be open to trading Brandon Nimmo if you sign George Springer. He's a starting caliber outfielder. He's not a star. He's not. He probably will never make an all-star team, but he's a damn good baseball player. Um, I think if you do sign Springer, you got to look to some sort of trade. I don't know if it's Arenado. I don't know if it's Lindor. I wouldn't assume it is one of those two. I would assume it's more of like a relief pitcher or a starting pitcher that we're just not talking about. Maybe maybe go down to Tampa and you say, hey, like Brandon Nimmo's available. What can we work something out? God, I could see him just absolutely crushing it with the Rays down there.
I don't know if we want that smoke from the Rays. They'll just take our already awful farm system.
Well, that's another problem too. It's like we don't really have much to offer besides
major league players. Yeah.
I'm not the person that's going to sit here and say trade Brendan Beatty or trade Matthew Allen. Absolutely not. They're like the only chips that you have left here. It's like, you know, when you're playing blackjack and you're up and you're up and you're up and you're up, and then Brody Van Wagenen came in and he bet all of his chips besides, you know, he left like $2 on the side here, and he bet all of his chips on frickin' Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz or Ed Luz Diaz, and he lost. The dealer beat him, and he's got 2 chips left, and he retired, and well, he didn't retire, but he retired from blackjack, and he let somebody else play with his 2 chips. And I don't know. I could also see Nimmo. Just you could have like a rotation out there with him and Dom Smith and Dom and Pete and then, you know, McNeil and Jimenez and Rosario. Depth is a good thing.
That's what I would lean towards. So our outfielders on the active roster, there's only 4 of them, which isn't a lot for an active roster. I mean, I guess the most you would have is 5, but we have Conforto, J.D. Davis, Nimmo, and Guillermo Heredia. So we just looking at those 3, JD, I don't see as an outfielder, but he's on our roster as that. So I would keep JD at third. I would be perfectly fine with the defense. He's not going to be. He's limited. He's limited defensively. He's a big dude, right?
He doesn't have range. He's got a killer arm, but
he's got a great arm, but he doesn't have range. He's going to struggle covering the bunt, stuff like that. Anything charging, it's going to be tough. But I would play him there, and then I would put Brandon Nimmo in left, and like you said, split up some time between him and Dom, and then you have Springer in center, you have Conforto in right. And that's a really good outfield and a way better defensive outfield setup than we had last
year. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a way better lineup.
We had a great lineup last year. It's insane that we didn't even make the playoffs because we were first in pretty much everything. I think we broke a record.
Categories, yeah. I don't know. This is a little bit off topic. Then we'll get back to the last free agent name that I want to talk about. But did you see the power rankings that came out?
No.
They had us at 8 in the power rankings right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to look at that. Was that ESPN?
Yeah, I think we were like 4th in the National League and 8th overall. Dodgers, Padres, Braves, Mets in the NL. That's crazy. And we haven't signed – I mean, we signed James McCann, we signed Trevor May, but we're not talking like any big name signings here yet. And you lost Robinson Cano, who had let's be honest, he had a resurgent year last year. He was really good.
Well, listen.
I do think you can make an argument that like losing him almost helps the Mets.
Yeah, it undoubtedly helps the Mets. I get it. He hit well, but also why did he hit well? I don't know. Maybe because he couldn't pass a drug test. So
bombs down to the DR now.
Yeah, no one's losing sleep over losing Cano because it frees up your defensive setup so much. Especially there's no DH this year with the NL, which I was a little disappointed by. That hurts us as an NL team more than probably any other NL team, I would say,
Absolutely.
Because imagine if there was a DH, we wouldn't even be having a lot of this conversation because you
Yeah,
just
but
throw
then
Dom in there.
if you have the DH, Dom slips in at DH. I mean, when we play American League teams, we're going to be really that lineup's going to be sick. If you sign George Springer, he plays center, Nimmo plays left, and then Dom Smith slides in as a DH. That's an unreal. I mean, assuming everyone's healthy, and this is signing George Springer.
That would have been ideal. But look, they're giving us the eighth best team in the league, and we haven't made a big signing yet.
They're
Right?
doing this like based off of like we think something's going to happen here. But anyways,
I'm sure, but I don't know. It's
right.
I would still feel comfortable even if we didn't make any big signing. To be honest,
They'd be good. Yeah, but then like you have to think long term too. Like Lindor is a free agent, Arenado's going to opt out. Like that's to me that's where things get dicey is next off season too. Last thing I wanted to talk about in free agency. I know you love them. I don't love them. I don't hate them. I'm like indifferent about it. I guess it depends on like again, it kind of goes back to the Bauer thing, but it depends on length and average. But Liam Hendricks, dude's a free agent, and apparently the Mets are really interested. And I don't know if this is the Mets doing their due diligence on the best relief pitcher out there. Because they did talk to DJ LeMahieu too, and it just sounded like they were touching base and doing their due diligence and seeing what's up. But it sounded like they were actually really interested in Liam Hendricks. I don't know how he fits on this bullpen. Not that he doesn't fit on this bullpen, because you make him fit. It's like, what do you do around him is the question. Edwin Diaz, say what you want about him. His K9 last year was insane. It was up in 20s at one point. He had a really rough year the year before, and he had a rough start to this year, and then he settled. And I really wish we had a 162-game season last year, because I would have loved to see he really got into a groove there, and it seemed like the slider came back a little bit, and it seemed like working with Jeremy Hefner was a good thing for him. Command is always going to be Edwin's issue, and I just don't know what is that conversation like? Hi, we just signed Liam Hendricks. You're going to be our eighth guy. Trevor's going to be our seventh. Familia can float around and he'll bop in every once in a while. Like, go ahead, take over.
Familia is not a he's not in the conversation at this point. He can pitch in the sixth or the fifth or this whatever at this point. He's not going to be. He is no longer that guy that is going to get crucial innings. And so we need to pretty much move on from that. He's on the team, and, anything we get from him, I'm going to look at as a bonus. I'm interested in Liam Hendricks just because, like, the bullpen still, even with Diaz doing well, is still never like – I was never confident in them at all. I was never confident in him. I won't be confident in him come April. I just won't. I'm sorry. I don't know if you will, but no. I can't. I don't know. I can't get over last year still. So I don't know where to go from there. I don't know if he does good for the first 2 months. I'll settle down a little bit. I don't think so, though. I think I'm scarred from him.
Yeah, that's one of the all-time – you basically look at him and he's the reason why they didn't make the playoffs in 2019.
One guy. That doesn't happen often.
I know. It's crazy.
Say it was him.
That trade, man. It always comes back to that trade. I can't stand that trade. I remember when it happened. It's just, what are we doing? Yeah, I don't – I would love Liam Hendricks. I think he'll probably get around like – what do you think he's worth?
Well, he's relatively older. He's not like some just young, fresh guy. He just, So that's what I guess worries me a little bit, but I guess that's the concern. He's 32 years old, and when did we start hearing about him, really?
I would guess like 3 years max and like 36. That's 12 a year.
That's what I was thinking. He's a 3-year guy probably, and he'll get that, and that's well deserved. And I don't know if it should come from us though, to be
And then
honest. And I love him.
this when Brody signed Familia, remember we traded him to Oakland for that playoffs, and then Brody signed him as a free agent. It was 3 years, $30 million.
Yeah.
And then traded for Edwin Diaz the same offseason too. And it was who's going to be the closer. And now it's almost like, you almost kind of look at both of them as like they're secondhand goods. And it's going to be, it's going to be, hopefully it could be a Trevor May and Liam Hendriks show at the back of the bullpen there. I do think if we sign Liam Hendriks, it's not looking good for Justin Wilson coming back to the Mets. And I was a big Justin Wilson fan. I think we're in like this new rule where you have to pitch to at least 3 batters. And Justin Wilson is a left-handed pitcher who can get righties and lefties out. And I think that's so undervalued. I don't think there's really a good metric to determine your first 3 batters as a relief pitcher yet. Like how do you perform against the first 3 batters? Like I would love to see his whip against the first 3 batters of an inning.
We need Jay Willie back, I think. I think he's more of a priority than people realize.
Yeah, if you get Hendricks, you're not getting Justin Wilson back. There would be – how much money can you put into one bullpen? You'd have 10 with Familia. You're paying Diaz some money. It's not a lot. But then you'd be paying Hendricks too, probably $12 million average. And then you're going to go re-sign Justin Wilson too. I don't know if that's going to happen.
That's why I'd say no to Hendricks. That's why I'd say no. I think we got a lot of potential with young guys in the pen too, like Drew Smith. I'm hopeful, and I really do like hearing all the good things about him. I think he could be legit for us. We don't have a lefty also, you know? We have lefties on minor league deals and stuff and getting invited to camp or whatever it is, but we don't have a lefty. And not hearing Justin Wilson's name, I don't know if I'm probably not worried about it, but it's like I know he's one of those guys that goes later after all the dust settles with free agents. Yeah. So I hope he comes back, and I would pick him over Hendricks, honestly.
Yeah, I love Justin Wilson. He did get hurt for a little while there, which really sucked. It'll be interesting to see how what's his name? It's slipping my mind. Long hair, tattoos. Gazelman. It'll be interesting to see how Gazelman comes back this year because he had a lot of hype around him too. He's a guy that can start some games. He's a spot starter. He can give you a few innings in the back of the bullpen. He was horrible last year. Him and Matz were god-awful. And these guys are both on the team right now, so it'll be interesting to see if they're the roster and it'll be, hey, like your baseball career's on the line. Let's see what you got, kid.
I got faith in the G-Man.
Yeah, I know you love him. I really liked him too when he first came up. I think he's got some good stuff. He's got to settle, man. He comes in and he's always so wild and like the biggest, like we all sit there and we watch and it's like you're a relief pitcher. What's the one thing that you can't do? The one thing you can't do is freaking walk a batter, walk the first guy. Like throw some strikes, man. Throw some strikes. I feel like Gazelman's always like the first batter he sees is always on first base.
He had a tough year last year too, though. He was just spot starting for us randomly.
I know.
He would walk the first batter in the first inning too, if that helped. I mean, he was consistent.
Between him and Matz last year, I don't know what the hell happened. Maybe it's like, weird year, weird off season, the stop and start spring training. Like maybe they just need to start fresh.
Dude, we have a lot of questions like that. It's weird. We have so much talent on this team, but then we have a ton of questions like up the middle defense, like you said. Steve Matz, is he a 5-starter either? Is he a long relief pitcher? Like, what is he? And we have a lot of questions like that. G-Man, is he going to fucking shit the bed again, or is he going to actually give us some good innings? Like, what? We have a lot of guys like that where I feel it's maybe –
Stroman's a huge question mark. You haven't pitched in a year.
I know. I know.
Same with Noah. Noah, you're coming off of TJ. Like, when are you coming back? There's
Yeah,
a question
yeah.
mark on this team.
He's going to be on an innings limit.
That 8 was crazy, by the way. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know. That's all I got with free agents. You got anybody else?
I mean, I wanted to talk about LeMahieu, but you kind of see it as just us
Yeah, I
doing
do
our due
think
diligence.
that was we're going to do our due diligence. We're going to touch base with the guy. We're going to see who he's talking to, and we want to be in the loop on some of this stuff because we want to show the team across town that we're in on these conversations now. I don't think this is the Mets actually going to try and sign him. I think this is the Mets just trying to be like, "Hi, look at me." New to the party, but I'm still here and I'm here for a long time. I do think the Yankees at the end of the day, I think what happens is he'll get a contract from LA and he's going to say, guys, here's their offer. And I think the Yankees will match it.
Have to do 4 years, 100 milli.
Yeah.
He wants 100 mil, 4 years. Yankees, I guess, offered 4 years, 75 or 75 mil.
I heard 80. I heard 4 and 80. They didn't want to go
above something like that. So Dodgers, I mean, I don't know. That's a weird. I know it's a little off topic, but that's a weird one. Just because it's like, well, maybe they don't think Gavin Lux is the guy then, because they kept him off the active roster at the beginning of the year. He came up for the playoffs a little bit, but didn't play much. And
I did think that this is now a Dodgers podcast, but I think them leaving Lux off the roster was very similar to the Cubs leaving Chris Bryant off the roster. Like, to me, it felt very much like arbitrational and like we're going to try to keep control of you for as long as we can type thing. But I do think, like, if you're a team that's like the Dodgers and you think you can go win another World Series and you can add a bat like DJ LeMahieu and a Gold Glove winner like DJ LeMahieu, why wouldn't you? And then Gavin Lux becomes another like piece that he can ride the bench for them for a little bit. He can become another asset that they can move around. I think it'd be a good move for the Dodgers to look into it and to see if it's in their budget and to make it happen. And if anything, you just drive the Yankees price up a little bit.
Yeah. I gotta say, he is intriguing at second base.
Hi, Penny.
Hey.
And now Tucker's going.
Oh no. I was thinking.
Hey, knock it off.
I was thinking that this. No, it's all good if this happens, but I was thinking maybe headphones next time.
Oh, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. All right. This is it's now a dog podcast.
Here he is.
It's a big boy. It's a big teddy bear.
That's Penny.
Say hi. She's like, what? There we go.
You're gone.
He's huge.
He's gigantic.
Back to baseball. Yeah, I guess I don't really see any other free agents that we could talk about, honestly.
Yeah, I think we covered the big names. We covered some trades. Obviously, we're gonna sign some, relief pitchers. You have to fill out a 40-man roster, and I don't know. I think it's going to be an interesting week to be a Met fan. I do think we should get some Springer news.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Blue Jays or us, I think it's going to happen this week, and I think you should get the Sugano news, and I think you kind of reevaluate and go from there. Like, next week could be a really different. You could have a new starting pitcher and a new center fielder. You could have nothing. You could have one or the other. So next week is going to be a crazy podcast for us. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
No, I agree. I think we'll get some news on a couple guys, and I think guys will start to go, especially as it gets closer to spring training. But yeah, I think that's it for now. I mean, I guess going forward, we'll definitely get it more into detail in terms of like news and transactions with minor leagues.
Yeah.
We want to touch on that. We want to praise our Lord and Savior Steve Cohen a little bit more.
Steve.
Yeah, Uncle Stevie. Uncle Stevie's tweets are all time, so we'll pay homage to that.
We love Uncle Steve's tweets.
Yeah, we'll do some fun things like that, and yeah, I think that's it. I mean, you got your.
Oh, you want me to
how
go?
We're gonna end every single podcast.
Well, Mets trivia.
Cole loves trivia, so I don't. It's okay. Trivia is okay, but it's also I think I don't like it because I don't really ever get it right. So
no, I'm gonna start you off easy. Okay, the Mets have won the National League East. Well, they consider it this many times. They have won the national. You have to remember baseball used to just have the pennant, and but they consider that the Mets have won the National League East 6 times. Can you name those years?
The National League East pennant 6 times.
No, just the National League East, just the division. Pennant.
Okay.
So because it's weird because it started, I think, in the late 80s where they started doing the divisional playoffs and stuff like that.
Did they? So that's all I'm working with? All right.
No. You're going from 62 to now.
Oh, yeah.
All
right. So, yeah, because they were always in the East. All right. 6 times. So I'll do 69.
That's 1.
72. I feel like 72 was a year they did something, but 69. Let me just list off year. I'll list off 6 years, and you let me know how many of them I get right.
Okay.
So I'll do 69, 77, 86, 88. I'm so bad at this. 2001 and 2000. No. Let me redo it.
Okay.
Because I ran out by the time I get into
you were going for 7. Don't get greedy.
So I'm like, oh, wait. 6 times is really not that much. That's not great. All right, well, it's going to change. This is all going to change thanks to Uncle Stevie. 69. I feel like we had to have won something in the 70s. I know we weren't good, but we had to have something. So I'll give 77. I'll do 86. And then I'll do – we didn't do shit in the 90s. Not 99, is it? Let's do 2000. So we went from 86 to 2000, and then 2005 and 2015.
Okay. It's hard to give you a straight answer with this because I'll give you your first try where you stopped and then the second try. The first try you had 3. You said 69, you said 86, and then you said 88. 88's correct.
88. All right. Okay.
88 correct. And then you said the ones that you got wrong for your first try were 77 is incorrect and 2001 is incorrect. The Mets won the first ever wild card. That was in 1999. So I think you're getting the 2000-2001 year confused with 99. That's when we played the Reds in that the 1-game playoff for the wild card.
But the Subway Series, we weren't first place in that?
Wild card.
Okay.
Braves. The second time you went, you said 69 correct. You said 77 incorrect. You said 86 correct. And then you said 2000 incorrect. You said 05 incorrect. You said 2015, which is correct. So one time you got 3 right. The other time you got a different 3 right.
2005 was wild card again with the Phillies, right?
2001 was wild. Yep. And then
the Phillies won the division, I think.
2006 was when they won the division, and then 07, 08 were the collapses with the Phillies. And then 2009 we were garbage. The year that you're confusing in the 70s, it wasn't 77, it was 73 they went to the World Series. So the ones you missed were 73. You got 88 the one time, you didn't get the next time, and 06. 06 is a hard one to miss.
I said 05, didn't I?
Yeah, you said 05.
Yeah, so
close.
Yeah, I knew we either so 05, that was wild card, and then 06 was when we won the division. All right, 06 is an easy one. I should have got.
06 with the division was like the picture with David Wright and Jose Reyes with the cigars in the mouth.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, that was just that was so disappointing because we didn't do anything. We didn't win anything.
No, well, that was 06 is the curveball year.
Yeah.
And then 07, 08, we didn't make the playoffs. Phillies.
No, this is all downhill from there. Then we had some rough years after.
Yep.
Jason Bay years.
Oh my God, dude. That was Cameron was obsessed with Jason Bay. He's going to be so good. Cameron's my brother for everyone. He's going to be so good. He's going to fit right in. Yeah, right.
Got that T-shirt jersey from Modell's right away.
He did have that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm out of here. LFG episode 1 in the books.